Hey, good morning. Rich Tyson here. Hey, today I want to treat you to a little bit of alphabet soup. What I mean by that is that there are a variety of models that can be very useful to you as a leader in your organization, but you need to know what those models are for, and so many of them use acronyms that may or may not be clear to you. And so with that in mind, I want to share some of those. The first one I'm going to share with you was actually one I created myself and have used over the years. It is PACER, P-A-C-E-R, and I want to share with you what that stands for and where you would use that, and then how it ties out with a couple of other great models that may be very useful to you. So first of all, on PACER, if I may, I want to write up here P-A-C-E-R. And the words that follow that acronym are plan, act, control, evaluate, and revise. And on the R, I'm going to add down here, reward. So I'll go through that with you briefly here. Now, first of all, the planning. Well, what does it mean to plan? Well, it is to develop, first and foremost, a strategic plan, if you will, something that's overarching for your organization that will be useful to you. What it is the development of an enterprise strategic plan, including the overarching vision of your organization, the desired outcomes in a variety of areas: financial, customer, operations, employee competencies and engagement, and recruitment. You want to develop the plan for all of those. That's all part of your overarching strategy for the company. The A then is act, and during this phase, the strategic plan is implemented. Control then is the actual performance is compared to the plan performance. And we want to look at both actions and outcomes. So we need to have metrics on both. What happens in the control phase is that as we do so, we come up with variances. It's rare that we get exactly what we had planned for, and so variances will occur. Let's go then to the E, that's evaluate. Variances are reviewed and are evaluated with an eye to why the variance occurred. Where were the assumptions of the plan inaccurate? We need to learn that as we go along. Then we go to the revise. Okay, now we see these variances. We see that our assumptions may have not been quite correct. We see that we're getting some outcomes that are different than what we had anticipated. And so now we revise, and that takes us into a cyclical nature to go back to planning. And so the evaluation becomes very important as it leads to revision, and it reinstitutes the whole planning process. Very important point here. So often when we do strategic plans, it's a greasy grind getting it together. There's a lot of components to it, and by the time we're done, we're just exhausted with it. And so the process at best often is just annual. It shouldn't be. It should be continuous. And so the process of evaluate, revise, and continue to work through this should actually happen on a monthly basis, a continuous basis. This allows us to learn from our strategic assumptions, to find ways to improve them, and over time to have our plans become reality in a way that allows us ultimately to go to this other use of the word or the letter R, meaning we now can reward, and we should celebrate when we do accomplish the things that we've set out to do. But the strategic planning process inherent in the PACER model is that it goes on continuously. It isn't something that we just do once a year. And again, I make a little bit of an apology for it in the sense that it is a greasy grind to pull it all together. But if you stay on top of it, you will learn so much from it. All right, so that is the PACER strategic planning model. That's the one that I came up with as I kind of thought through, well, what did I learn at the Harvard Business School? This is kind of the essence of so much of it. Now, I'm going to erase this and give you another little bit of alphabet soup here today. This one is called DMAIC. That is D-M-A-I-N-C. And I have talked to some who are in my field who said, well, DMAIC really does what the PACER model does, and we like it better. Actually, I think DMAIC has a different purpose to it altogether. DMAIC is a problem-solving methodology which undergirds Lean and Six Sigma. DMAIC works best where there's an obvious problem within an existing process, where there's a strong probability that waste or defects can be eliminated, and where metrics are available to measure the current and future state of the process. So DMAIC consists of these 5 phases. First of all, the D is for define. So what we're doing there is we're defining the problem that we're interested in solving. Second, the M is for measure. And so what we're doing there is we are quantifying the problem. We're saying where we are today. If we're not getting the kind of output we want from our production process, or we're not quite getting what we want, if we can measure it, if we can say we're producing X widgets and we'd like to produce Y, then we can quantify the problem. Then analyze is the next piece here. And so what we're really doing here is zeroing in on the root cause of the problem. And there are a variety of tools you can use, fishbone diagrams and so forth. This is a place where we would maybe bring together an executive team or a group of people on the plant floor, a team that's putting together a product, and say, okay, well, let's each of us contribute what we think the problem is. And so we are analyzing then, based on the measurement that we've determined, we want to get better. Now we're going to analyze and figure out where the problem is. Then when we come to the I stands for improve, which really can also be implementing a solution. So you might use the I either way, improve or implement. Finally, then the C is for control, used a little different than the way I use it in the PACER model. This is, once we know what the solution is, we maintain the solution. We're able to control it and stay on top of it. So that's the DMAIC, and I would say really important here, throw this in red above it. This isn't for strategic planning, this is for problem solving. And it's a great model to do that. Does it have some elements that are similar to PACER? Sure it does. We're defining, that could also be considered planning and so forth. There's measurement, action versus plan. In this case, what do we want versus what do we have? Analyzing why we're short of the mark. There's a lot of intuitive things that are similar, but this is more zeroing in on a problem and solving it. So that's the second piece of, let's say the second bowl of alphabet soup for you today. So let's go now to the third one. And this one doesn't have quite as easy a way to use it as a word. It's really PDCA, okay? PDCA is actually a technique to help you implement solutions. It was initially developed way back in 1959 by a Japanese fellow by the name of Mizuno. It was made popular by W. Edwards Deming, and it's based on the scientific method: hypothesis, experiment, evaluation, and conclusion. So the P, once again, very much sounds like the same type of thing. It's plan. But now what we're doing is establishing objectives and the processes to deliver desired outcomes. The second piece is do. So this is act on the plan. This really is, again, getting down to the specific details, prototyping and other iterative and low-cost options where we're going to test those and we're going to measure to determine the effectiveness of those options. The C is for check. What are we doing there? Well, during this phase, the results of testing are evaluated. Were the expected outcomes achieved? And then the A is for act. And during this phase, we're looking at the insights we've gained when we checked, and then we are saying, okay, now we're going to more broadly and deeply implement something as it appears that this is an answer to our problems. Sometimes the A is considered to be adjust, because the insights that were gained in earlier phases will lead to fine-tuning. So ultimately in the ACT phase, this leads to clear processes, standards, and guidelines for achieving desired outcomes. Again, I see this as a micro version of the PACER model. The PACER model is more broad, strategic. It has a variety of components to it. Once we zero in on some of those components, PDCA can work. When we find problems with some of the things we're working with, the DMAIC model works really well. So I wanted to share this with you. Again, a lot of alphabet soup here. Don't get hung up on the acronyms so much, but recognize that there's a different purpose for each of them, and yet they have a lot of common genetics, if you will. They do work well with one another, but you kind of want to know what to use in what circumstance and how it will best serve you as a leader. We work with these things all the time. We would love to help you if you're struggling with how to implement them. Be great to have a conversation. So please, land on our website, get in touch with us, make a comment here. We'd love to get back to you. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the CEO Builder channel, please do. We're going to continue to have all kinds of topics that can be useful to you as leading as a CEO in your organization, or as an owner, a founder, an entrepreneur. So thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to sharing with you more of these insights as we move forward. Thanks for listening to RichTalk today.